Here we are, episode 4, part 2. What does racism mean to you? We about to get deep. How we doing? This is Rob Foster with RBF Fitness and Nutrition. You should know the value that you bring to the marketplace. You know what your passion is. You know why you do what you do. So racism, it's out there, but it doesn't have to stop you. Just because somebody might look at you a certain way, that doesn't have to stop your forward progress. That's where you have to eliminate the excuses. You got to make that game plan say, for me to get to that point, all right, we're going to get Sorry, I tapped my microphone, I guess, and it went out for a second. Again, the joys of doing live streams. All right, so anyway, so part 2, we're going to have this continue the discussion about what does racism mean to you. And so I have a couple people joining me, and I was discussing before we went live that I just want people to own their truth and just be unapologetically you. Because it doesn't have to be a broad blanket term. And I'm going to share a video in a few minutes once I bring the guests on. And we're going to react to that video. And then we're going to get into what it means to us and how we can improve race relations. Because we can talk about things till we're blue in the face. But if we don't have actionable steps that we can give for people to take, then we're going to keep regurgitating the same nonsense and keeping the same state for the next 100 years. So what we have been doing obviously hasn't fully worked because it's still here. So we're going to have that conversation and try to figure out why. So first, let's bring in my lovely daughter, Olivia Foster. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
you always start off just so nervous and awkward sounding.
Yeah.
It's all right. You'll loosen up. And joining me from South Carolina is David Gwilt.
Very good. Hi, Robert.
How's it going?
Very good. Thank you. Hi, Olivia.
Hello.
All right. So the topic is, what does racism mean to you? So I want to actually share my screen real quick, and I want us to listen to a video. So the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist is Ibram Kendi. He was asked to define racism, and this is what he came up with. Hold on. I gotta put this here so you guys can hear it. All right.
About the importance of defining racism, but I unless I missed it, which is possible, I didn't hear your personal definition. Is there one that you would offer us? Like, how do you define racism?
Sure. So racism, I would define it as a collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
That sums it up.
Sure. A collection of racist policies that lead to racial inequity that are substantiated by racist ideas.
All right. See, and I think with this discussion that's part of the problem, is that someone who wrote an entire book on the subject really can't define it or didn't do a really good job of defining it. So before I share mine, we're going to start with David. How do you answer the question? Just what does racism mean to you?
What does racism mean to me?
Yes.
Oh, heavens. I guess looking at people that don't look like me as the other, as the less than, maybe that's simple. That and it doesn't matter. I mean, racism isn't just black and white. It's Native Americans, it's Asian Americans. If they don't look like me, and I don't mean that at a personal level, but as a Caucasian born and raised in America, if they don't look like me, then there's something that's wrong with them because they're different. I don't know where they're from. I don't know if they speak my language. I don't know if they believe what I believe. And because of that, I'm looking at those people through a prism that isn't the same as if I looked at another Caucasian, even though that other Caucasian might be, a QAnon believer, and I'm not. But I would assume that no, he's more like me than any of the others that don't look like me.
Okay. All right. Wasn't expecting that, but good. Olivia.
Yeah, I kind of to continue on with that. I also think it's also making assumptions about people based on the color of their skin. So seeing like a white person thinking that they're rich, or seeing a Black American thinking that they're always in the streets or something. So I think that also is a part of it as well.
Okay, and then I'll give my stance. It's any color that looks down upon another race. Any color. So for the longest time, it was always white versus black, like always. And there was a time where that was legal. What was it right? No, but it was legal. So I can see how, there's still some tensions there today, because as Olivia and I discussed last week, my feeling is it starts in the household. It's like kids aren't born racist. Kids are taught racism. And that's one big reason why I speak out against critical race theory, because you're basically teaching kids to see color. When kids are born, they don't see it. So my biggest stance is to just assume negative attributes about someone else based on their skin color. So David, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, frankly, I grew up in a household that was like that. My dad was not adverse to using the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
He worked in a factory, and he was born in 1921. And I remember him telling stories. I'll just give you one example of, he was working for Carrier Air Conditioning Company up in Syracuse. And then federal mandates came out for equal employment. And so as he would say, his white friends were losing jobs just so they could hire Black people to fill their quotas.
Gotcha.
And so he built up a lot of resentments, and a lot of his coworkers did too, his white coworkers, that who are these people being put in jobs? It doesn't matter if they're qualified or not, just given jobs because of the color of their skin and what the federal government said. So yeah, I grew up with a lot of that.
Olivia?
Wow. It's always just interesting to hear, because sometimes I forget that, people's grandparents have lived through that time. Yeah, I forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry. You can skip me. I got a brain fart.
Yeah, and along the lines of what David was saying, I could understand why people would feel that way. For me, I grew up. I mean, I was born in New York City. Like, we were born in the city, but I was raised up here in rural Rhode Island. Because my dad got a job up here. Like, I was actually speaking with my mom about this over the weekend, and she was saying that he knew it was time. Like we can't raise these kids here in the city. They were living in the projects in, I believe it was Far Rockaway, New York. And they were like, we can't raise these kids here. Like, we got to get them into a better environment, to a better school system. So they took the steps to make that happen. Whereas I find we really don't have, and again, this is my opinion, we don't really have a racism problem. I feel like post-slavery, when there was redlining, and when the Blacks were pretty much shoved into what are now the inner cities, that's what needs to be undone. Because you have people who still have the slave mentality, to where they're just stuck in that cycle. Like, this is where we are. The white man put us here, and this is all we can ever have. It's like, and so now, where I said earlier about it being politicized, 80s, I believe it's 87% of Blacks vote Democrat. And if you look at those Democratic policies, it's kind of geared to keep them on the government. and it's the politicians that are hammering down all this racism. Like anything in the news that happens from a white person to a black person is like national news. But in the inner cities, the gang violence is getting out of control. It's like, that's the problem. You know, the handful of people that get killed by cops, everybody's focusing on that and defunding the police. It's like, how can we infiltrate those gangs? You know, it's like, that's what I feel is the biggest problem, keeping the divide alive. Olivia?
I kind of want to know your guys' opinion on this. How, in the Black community, how they're so racist and disrespectful to each other, but then when it's a white person or someone else being racist, it's this huge issue. I don't understand.
David?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I will tell you that I don't have a lot of close friends who are people of color.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not, I guess, privy to those conversations. I do remember, you know, and I think age has something to do with it. I'm not sure how old Olivia, I know you're just a young woman. How old are you, Robert?
I'll be 47.
Okay, well, I'm 71. Okay, now you're supposed to be shocked that I don't look 71, Olivia. You're supposed to go, oh my God, he doesn't look 71.
Yeah, you don't at all. I didn't
Well,
think
you don't.
Okay, but I am. That's the truth of it. And so I grew up in a whole different time than both of you did. And I vividly remember there was a part of Syracuse where I grew up that when I was a kid, anybody could walk, you know, through those areas day or night and be totally safe. And by the time I left Syracuse when I was 27, there were a lot of areas you would not walk through, even in the daytime. I mean, people were being killed right in front of convenience stores, you know, shot and killed. And the attitude of a lot of white folks back then was, as long as it's just blacks killing blacks, it's fine. We don't care. Let them kill each other. They stay in their pockets. The police keep them corralled in. And that's their violence, and nobody really cares about it.
Yeah.
And so I understand what you're saying, and I know it's like every time I read anything about Chicago, it's like, my God, there's young kids getting killed every day in Chicago. Yeah. At the same time, when George Floyd gets killed, you know, and Derek Chauvin now is going to be sentenced, I think in September, it's big news, and I think it should be. I think it should be. You know, whether it's a black policeman, a white policeman, if you are callous and insensitive to another human being and treating them as less than, it doesn't matter if it's black, white, white, whatever it is, then you need to be held accountable. Yeah. I really don't think anybody wants the police defunded. I think that whole claim, in my opinion, from the right saying defund the police, and that's terrible. I have a friend that's a policeman in Charlotte, and his wife says, oh, he's going to have to get a job as a fireman now because they're going to defund the police. Like, that's ridiculous. They're not going to do that. They're trying to take some money and put it into some more effective means, like maybe mental health. Not for the police to do that, but they use mental health counselors with some of these situations.
Let me jump in on that one. Let me jump in on that one, because there were a couple things there. So first, with George Floyd, you know, they just gave him a statue. Yeah,
I saw that, which surprised me. I'm not sure that a statue was the right thing to do.
No,
just a personal opinion. I'm like, why are they doing a statue to George Floyd?
Look at my daughter's face. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like what happened to him. It was absolutely despicable. Yeah, but his life, his lifestyle, should not be poster child status.
I know.
Not at all.
Wasn't he a criminal and dealt with drugs and been in and out of jail?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. He held a gun to a pregnant woman's belly. How do you think she feels seeing that? Oh, know what I mean? Like, that's like, I read that. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like, how much lower can you raise the bar for the black community?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, everyone crying voter suppression. It's like, you don't think we're smart enough to figure out how to cast a ballot? It's like, we can figure it out. Whatever the rules are, we'll figure it out. You know, it's like when you go, if you're going to fly somewhere, you need an ID. To buy liquor, you need ID. To go to college, you need ID. Why is it a big deal that you need an ID to vote? Like that doesn't make any sense to me.
So wait, Robert, are you saying that the problem, the largeness of these issues is because of the media focus on it?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's interesting. All right.
Absolutely. Yes, because if you think about it, I do have one correction for you though, because it's not the right saying defund the police. That's the left. That's like AOC.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay. That's like AOC's mission in life is to defund the police. And now, kind of like Black Lives Matter, you can't argue with that saying, but the organization stands for something different. And same thing with defund the police. They're telling you on the surface that we want to reallocate funds, for mental health and training. And no, it's not. Here in Providence, we had them on video. People were outside the governor's house demanding the police force be reduced by, I think it was 30 or 40%. See,
No.
so what people report and the actions that follow aren't always in alignment. So like, talking about critical race theory, it sounds like a good idea in theory to let people know, we don't want to ignore the history of our country. But what they're doing when you actually go to the school, because it's public records, and you look at the curriculum, the curriculum does not match what you're saying this is. So that's why I've been very outspoken about it. Like, because I don't want my kids learning about life from somebody else. Like, I'm their father. That's my job. It's my job to shape their moral compass, not the schools. So when you're talking to first and second graders about sex ed already, you're talking to them about, if you see a black person in trouble with the cops and you're a white kid, jump in front of them so they don't get shot.
Really?
That's in a children's book.
Really?
I mean, if you're gonna do
Yes.
that.
Go ahead, Liv.
That's just crazy. They're teaching sex ed to first graders.
Yes, they're teaching them about masturbation, in boys when their little thing gets happy. Yeah,
They're kids.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
exactly.
You're gonna take their childhood away.
And what business of that is educators?
Yeah.
Like their job is math, science, social studies, history.
Yeah.
Like they shouldn't be talking about matters with the police, matters with your body. I can see with the 8th graders because they're in puberty.
Yeah.
Right, I can see them, but kindergarten, K through 7, there is no reason for that to be in the school curriculum. But those are all leftist talking points, and so going back to the whole, this is all political. So with race, if we suddenly just got together, the Democrats would have no party. their party would absolutely crumble. It's like they need that black vote. So how do we get the black vote? We say the Republicans are racist, and we're the ones that's here for you with the housing and with the healthcare and basically the welfare system. So that's the worst case scenario for a liberal, is that we get along.
Oh, so wait. So let me ask you a question. So are you saying that because the Democratic Party, the liberals in that party are telling black people, we're here for you, and continuing to build government support programs, that they are, because of those programs, keeping black people dependent on them and not trying, and that group of folks is not striving to, if you will, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, get a good education and get a better job and lift up your whole family. So the Democrats are in essence holding black people down because of the government programs?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. See, now I've been in the midst of it because I lost my job in 2009, height of the recession. Took almost 3 months for my unemployment to get processed and to give me my first check. Because again, it was at the height of recession. I was in a management position. I was sending out resumes everywhere, and no one was hiring at the rate that I wanted.
Right.
And so, she's one of 5 children of mine, and so
I
I was like,
as well.
"Oh,
Yeah.
awesome!" so I was like, I have to do something. And I was talking with my dad, and he's like, "Just go down to the welfare office." And I was like, "Hell no." I was like, no. But then after a few days went by and the savings was getting lower and lower and lower, it's like, crap, like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I go down there and just hearing people talk. I remember sitting in a room waiting to get my food stamp card. And I overhear this black woman saying, yeah, I have my CNA, but I ain't trying to work. It's like, if I go to work, they're going to take away my shit. She said it just like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there's no benefit to getting off. See, so once I got on, I decided I'm not going to manage restaurants again. I finished my college program in exercise science, and then I got certified in group fitness and personal training, and then I started my own fitness business.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like that. That's what the system is designed for. It's not designed to keep you on it.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't preach that. Like, there's no education that goes with it. Like, if you're on the system, they should be educating you as well, because what's lacking in the Black community is wealth. Like, that's what's lacking. So I have a podcast. I've done 100 episodes. I've had a lot of persons of color on there. And my show is about overcoming obstacles. Not one of them have mentioned white supremacy or racism as an obstacle that they had to overcome.
Really?
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying the issue is in the inner city. That's the issue. People outside of the city, blacks are prospering. And I'm not saying no one in the inner city is prospering. I'm not saying that. But if you're in a household like with mine, my parents hammered down to us to make yourself successful. Make yourself successful. It's like, it was never they're gonna keep you down or you're gonna struggle because of the color of your skin. They never told us that. They just said, get up there, be the best you can be, and you'll land the right spot. And I say the same thing to my kids, you know. So, but there's that group that can be controlled. Because think about it. CNN is liberal media. Fox News is mostly right-wing media. So Trump signed 5 peace agreements in the Middle East. 5. CNN didn't utter a word about it. Not one word. So, because it goes against the agenda. You know, but if a white cop shoots a black person, they will hammer that story home till, you know, for days, weeks. You know, because it's not about preserving black lives. It's about preserving the black votes. What are your thoughts on that, Olivia?
That made me think back during the election. I don't remember his name. There was a black man. They only showed him running from the police.
Rashad Brooks.
Shot him. Okay, I think that was the name. The one who's in the Wendy's drive-thru, I believe, where it started.
Yeah, Rashad Brooks.
Yeah, I remember we saw that. Like, we had a whole debate in our own house, and how just angry I got because, first of all, they weren't showing the whole video, and then when the whole video came out, people were still going on about police brutality and why don't. It just makes me upset.
Isn't that the gentleman that had the police taser and tried to tase the police?
Not the taser. He
okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Arrest.
Yeah. Go ahead, Liv.
Fought back, shot the taser, and then ran away, and then they were shot. So I don't think they needed to be shot, 6 times in the back, but if you're resisting arrest and you fight the police, you should expect some resistance.
And then you fire a weapon at the police.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen. Like, when I speak in schools, and especially in the schools in the city, I let them know, if you fight the cops, you're going to lose. Don't ever, ever, ever fight the cops. The way you fight the cop is you take the ticket and you show up at the court date with a lawyer. That's how you fight it. You don't fight the cops on scene. In next week's show, we're talking about police brutality. So we'll go deeper into that next week. But getting back to the political affiliation of it, I said this last time. If you watch the Democratic National Convention, the entire message was white supremacy and racism. They didn't talk about policies. They didn't talk about helping the people. They were just talking about how racist Trump is and how he needs to get out of office. Like that was the whole message. And it just boggles my mind because people jump right on the bandwagon. So I've been alive almost 47 years. A white person has never kept me from doing anything. Nothing. So like I was on another debate show and I said oppression's a state of mind. That's what it is. Like if you don't think you have options, you're not gonna have options. So like maybe at one point, yes, blacks were treated that way. They were treated as less than. They were herded like cattle. You know, they would lived in despicable conditions. You know, their families were split up. Their women were tortured. Yet all of that stuff definitely happened. Then they were down, but they revolted. Then the white people band together, helped free them. You know, then the whites didn't want them, and they shoved them into the inner cities. But we're at a period in time now where there's more successful blacks than any other time in history, and you know we're not far removed from a 2-term black president. You know, so why are we telling young black kids today is like, listen, you can be president, but instead we're telling them how hard they have to work and how oppressed they are. You know, David, what are your thoughts on that?
You surprised me with some of your takes, Robert. Yeah, we had a 2-term black president, and gun sales went through the roof. And the fear that was put out there by the right wing, which was Obama's going to take away your guns.
Yeah,
and going to make you all register your guns, and gun sales went crazy. And I had white friends of mine say to me, you know, after the first term, yeah, I'm not voting for Obama. You know, I don't like the guy. Nothing. Not that I'm a racist.
yeah.
And I'm like, well, if you're saying you're not a racist, then you're a racist. I mean, it's real simple. When somebody says it's not about the money, it's about the money.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in denial, no, you're anyway. You know, the idea that a black person today who lives in the projects, who doesn't have an education, can be successful in this country, I think that's a pipe dream. I mean, I've never lived in the projects, and obviously I'm not a person of color, but the way out for young blacks in the projects is through athletics right now, is it not? Because if it's not that, where are they getting the money for an education? Who are they looking to for role models? Are they looking to LeBron? LeBron's done a lot for his community with schools, but he's a freak athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete. They're not going to be that. So how did they get out of where they are? And if what folks if what people, black or white, in the projects are seeing is the folks with the money are the drug dealers, what do they think is the way out? It's dealing drugs. It's not going to be, well, let me work really hard, start as a dishwasher and work up to a cook and maybe a sous chef and the head chef. It's no. Where are they going to learn how to get out? I think, so you can say the Democrats are trying to keep people down and make them think the government's the answer. And I would agree that I don't think the Democrats have delivered on promises a lot for the black community. They say they have, but have they really? Yeah, maybe not. But how do you get out of the projects? You obviously didn't grow up in the projects, Robert. You're in
my parents
nowhere.
did.
Your parents did, but you did. So when you say, hey, it isn't, I've never been discriminated against, but you didn't grow up in the projects. You didn't come out of there where people looking at you saying, yeah, no, he lives in the projects. Because if they say that means you're probably a criminal. You don't have an education. You don't have any morals. You can't spell ethics. There's a mindset that goes along with that. Along with the projects have the freeways all running through them because, rich communities don't want freeways running through there. Syracuse is a great example. The projects have Route 81 going right through it. I mean, that's where they built it, and they built it there for that reason.
It's true.
That's a lot of stuff, I know, but
no, it's okay. Go ahead, Olivia, respond to that.
I just think if we actually want to fix, obviously it's going to take time, but how we spoke about how it is a mindset and it always starts in the home. I think that's where reform needs to start, because you can't, if my dad goes to talk to a school and inspires kids, like they're just going to go back home and their parents are just going to repeat to them what they've been saying to them for the last several years,
Sure, put my fan in here.
And a lot of times too, when people speak out and they're like, if you're a Black American, you can do X, Y, Z, and still be successful, they don't necessarily agree. They'll be like, you're the whitest black person I know, or, you know, I just feel like it needs to start in the home, you know, and I don't know how to put it into words, but I just know it needs to start there. We'll just start with that. It needs to start in the home, you know, and honestly, have them focus on themselves, because like you said, if I see a black person and they're like, say they're leaving the projects, I honestly don't care. I mean, as long as you're not gonna like shoot me or something, but it's like, I honestly, like, I don't care if that's your current living situation, and if anything, I want to help you, you know, like, I would honestly love to form some sort of group and like just help other, you know, kids my age like get into college. You know, like CCRI offers 2 free years and it's not too expensive. URI has a talent development program, you know, and even if athletics is the only way out, like, plus we have phones. My dad's mentioned this before. It's like, we got phones, you know, and I feel like we're so stuck in the past that people don't realize, like, literally it's so easy to make money now, and there's more to the streets, but because that's what they've known for the last 20 years, you know, that's what I'm saying, like, it has to start like in the black community itself.
Okay, and all right, so David, I want to address a couple of things you said, and this isn't against you specifically.
Yeah, it's fine.
Right, but just one thing you said is that's the common myth going around, that if you live in the city, you know, your only way out is really athletics. Like, how else are you going to get out? It's by people to stop saying that. You know what I mean? It's the message that you're giving the kids. So if President Obama said, if you live in a single parent home, you know, you're 20% more likely to lead a life of crime. That means 80% of time you're not. You know, 80% you're not. So I think, like, Olivia, I mean, I can't say you're right because this is an opinion show, but I'll say I agree with you that it definitely starts in the home. Because, like, if you didn't have me as your dad hammering down all the positivity I have with you guys, say if I was negative, say if I wasn't driven, say if I wasn't around, you know, your upbringing would have been completely different. Your mindset would be completely different, you know? And so, you know, David, you had mentioned, you know, your parents lived in the hood, but you didn't. And why didn't I? Because they broke the cycle. Somebody has to break the cycle. Like, that's the biggest thing in the inner city. If you grew up poor and your kids are growing up poor, their kids are going to grow up poor until somebody steps in and breaks the cycle. And it starts with telling these young kids, hey, listen, this is where you live, but what makes you happy? You know, whenever I speak in schools, or I'm working with someone that's trying to better themselves, is the first thing I say is, what makes you happy? And if it's singing, if it's music, if it's writing, if it's arts and crafts, if it's cars, like, no matter what it is, and then I help them paint a picture of a career doing that thing that makes them happy. You know, so just because they might grow up poor and then there might not be the best schools where they live, well, damn it, you got to maximize what you have. You know, you got to maximize what you have. But there are some amazing people that have come out of the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
Viola Davis, you know, actress. She was from up here, Central Falls. Just a few years ago, Central Falls fired their whole teachers, all of their teachers. You know, all of them, and they started back from scratch. But she went through that school system, and she made it big.
Yeah, but you're picking one person.
No, that was just an example.
Well, I know, but it's the exception that proves the rule, right? That education is really the answer to the whole thing. You know, I've always thought that whether you're black or white, if you get a good basic education, then I would agree you can do anything you want to. But if you don't get a good education and what you see at home, for example, we could. I'm older, so you know, I lived through a lot of this stuff. So when the government was all into arresting, you know, black males for crack cocaine, but you know, one of my brothers was into powdered cocaine. Well, hell, they were letting white people off all the time. If you could afford a good lawyer, there was nothing. So they take a lot of young black fathers out of the community and put them into prison. You tell me if that's wrong or not, but that's what I heard happened. And so you got kids growing up where mom's out working 2-3 jobs and there's no adult in the home afterwards. So
Yeah.
kids are on the streets. And if you don't have a good educational system and an after school program, what do you expect these young folks to do? Now, I grew up, I told you, with hearing racist stuff from my dad in my house, but I didn't become a racist.
Yeah.
When I went on to college, it opened my mind to a whole different world of what was there. I went to a Catholic high school. I think we had 5 black kids in our school out of, I don't know, 400, 500 kids.
Yeah.
5. That's it. And I grew up playing sports with a bunch of black kids in my neighborhood. Heck, I got a picture of me playing football when I was 14. I was the only white kid in the backfield. Quarterback and a 1 halfback and a fullback were black, and here I am, the only white kid in the backfield. We have Native Americans on the team. So fortunately, I was exposed to a lot of people from a lot of different colors who were friends of mine. So it didn't matter what my dad was teaching me or trying to teach us or expressing his views. We didn't buy into that, or I didn't buy into it because I saw it different. I was exposed to different. So I was fortunate, because you're right. If that's all you hear in the home, that's the way you grow up, whether it's a racist or a Klansman or a liberal or a Trump fan or whatever it is, you kind of espouse what your parents teach you every day.
Yeah. I'll agree with what you said about it, exposed to something different. So that's my whole point with the management of the inner cities. It's been done the same forever. Forever. So it's time to expose them to something different.
So how do you do that, Robert?
It's the thing is people are always talking about the system. It's like you gotta talk to the kids. It's getting out there and speaking to the kids. Like you were saying, after school programs. I'm a speaker. Like once the schools fully open back up, I want to get back out there into the schools, speak to the kids, and just let them know that they were born with gifts. Like just because you might be in a tough spot at home, I'm like, you can fix it. Like you can fix it. Maybe your mom is just stuck in the cycle of working 2 jobs. Maybe dad's either not in the house or he's imprisoned. Like all that stuff is happening to you, but you were still put on this earth for a reason. And to help them see that it's bigger than what everyone else is telling you. Like you have a purpose. Like I told that to my daughter when we were figuring out what she wanted to do for college. And remember that, Olivia? We started with what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Who would you like to work with? And what career can give you that? We reverse engineered it. We didn't just talk about which thing will make you the most money, because then people are going to go to college, get in debt, and end up in a field that they hate until they retire, and then they're going to be on their deathbed with regrets. It's like we don't, I don't paint that picture for the kids. Like I let them know life might be tough, but you know what that's doing? That's making you strong. It's making you strong. Like, and you have what it takes to change, to break that cycle. And then so we get that kid empowered, they get into college, they're able to change their direction, and then they go on and teach other people how to do it. And you teach other people how to do it in spite of what's going on around you. David?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, but you need about 5,000 more people like you, Robert.
They're out there. They just don't make it on TV. They're out there. Only, again, going back to the political nonsense. Like there are, I believe it was the last 10 years, if you want to talk about the shooting of unarmed black men. Now, the killing of anyone is obviously awful, but statistics are statistics. They are what they are. So you figure about roughly 15 per year out of 60 million police interactions. 60 million. So there's 15 per year. So there's roughly, I think last year there were about close to 9,000 black on black deaths. So we go for the last decade, you're talking 90,000 blacks were killed by other blacks versus 150 people killed by the cops. Mm-hmm. So, which is the bigger problem here? But yet we don't talk about that. And the part that hurts me, being a person of color, we're okay with black people dying in the streets every day. Like, we're okay with it. We've accepted it as part of the norm in our culture because no one will talk about it.
Well, I told you when I was a kid, my dad and his friends, they would all say the same thing. As
Yeah.
long as it's blacks killing blacks, as long as they don't come into our neighborhood, we're fine. We don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute, these are people killing people. They're teenagers being shot to death for what? For some weed but
Mhm.
the white community is like, that's okay. Keep that group right there. There's a line you don't cross. You don't come into the white areas and kill yourself wherever, and nobody cared about it. I don't think anybody ever did anything about it. They may still not be doing anything about it.
See, and even nowadays, it's not even just white areas. Because I tell my kids, like my son told me he went to a party at one of the projects down in Providence. I was like, what the hell were you doing over there? You know what I mean? It's like we know where the bad places are. It's like, what the hell were you doing over there? I'm like, are you trying to get shot? Like now you think I would ever set foot in South Chicago? Hell no.
Yeah.
No. And I'm brown.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it. You know? So it's like I said, once people leave the city and you realize there's a whole new world out there. And so maybe, Olivia, maybe this is something we could do locally, is maybe organize like some type of nature thing for kids that only know the city. Maybe like go on a hike or something along those lines. But there just has to be other ways. Like there's a man I had on the show, on my other show. His name is Adam Chaka. And he's married to a black woman. So, they have mixed race kids. And so he was noticing in the cities that there's like dance schools in the predominant white areas, but in the heart of the city where it's predominantly people of color, that there really wasn't any. And so he wants to create, I believe he said he has 13 cities mapped out, but he wants to create an outlet of dance for these young black and brown girls. And so it's like things like that is how we're going to go about change. It's like, okay, so we know the city has problems. We have to address the problems and not just keep saying it's racist, it's systemic, it's institutionalized. Yeah. Like, all right, what are we going to do about it? Olivia?
I think a lot of it too, and especially with black kids who don't really have, like their parents aren't always home, is like no one actually cares for them. And that's why they find like a new father on the streets. And always hearing about how white people are oppressing, like, oh, they don't care about us. Like, my parents don't care about me. Like, I'm just going to go to the street. So I feel like, giving something to actually care about and actually care about themselves, too, will be a step in the right direction.
I think, too, before I let you go again, David, I think, too, it's about repairing the black family.
Yeah.
Repairing the black family. Because even, believe it or not, even during Jim Crow, when segregation was legal, the black family was stronger.
Yeah, it's all they
was
had.
stronger. I believe the single motherhood rate was 23% back then. It's almost 74 now.
Yeah.
74. And that's hurting the black men, but it's also hurting the young black girls.
Yeah.
Like they have the highest rate of STIs, the highest rate of abortions. And like, I don't care if you're for it or against it, just the numbers are the numbers. But it's 400,000 per year.
Yeah.
400,000. Like how is the race going to advance like that? You're talking 19 million since Planned Parenthood was born, we'll call it, for lack of better terms. But, and with black men, now blacks in general, we're only 13% of the country, 13%. So 6% are men. And now are all black men criminals? No. So let's say, even if we say like 1.5%, but they're responsible for 52% of the violent crimes. And that doesn't
even... a big percentage of the inmate population too. Way more than 13%.
No, I know. But I'm not even talking the petty crimes. I'm talking the violent crimes. The crimes that they should be locked up for. I'm not talking about, the petty ones like marijuana and stuff like that. Like this, people smoke it for medicinal reasons. They just need to cut the crap and just make that legal already. But that's the thing. It's the violent crimes. Like that's the one that stands out to me. It's like why is there so much hatred within them? that they can kill that many of their own people?
Yeah, I have no idea. That has always befuddled me. Is like, don't you folks that are trapped into this project area and told to stay there? Why do you look at each other as the enemy? Don't you say, hey, why are we buying into this idea that we're less than and we have to stay here, corralled into this area? Why is that? Why are we killing each other? It never made any sense to me. It still doesn't make any sense to me why that dynamic continues.
And you just said the money sentence. Why do we have to feel like we're less than?
Yeah.
Like, see, that's what my parents told us. They said, yeah, people might look at you for the color of your skin. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? He's like, you just be so good that they don't even pay attention to that.
Yeah.
So now I've been running my gym since 2009. It's 2021. I have probably a 98% white clientele.
Mm-hmm.
98%. So if this world is so racist and so awful and white supremacy runs rampant, and I'm one of a handful of black trainers in this area, why are they coming to me?
Yeah, but see, okay, so there's a couple of things. You want my opinion on it?
Of course, that's why you're here.
First of all, you're brown, you're not black. Okay.
Mhm.
If you were black, like from Nigeria,
Yeah,
that might be an issue.
I got you on that, but go ahead.
Okay. If you didn't speak the English language as well as you do,
Yeah.
if you spoke more street language, maybe you wouldn't get so many people. But at the end of the day, it really depends on what your talent level is. So if people see you as a good trainer and you have a nice personality, they're going to come to see you. It doesn't matter what color you are, but you've got a talent and you've built a business. Somebody else trying to start a brand new business that maybe doesn't speak the language as well, didn't grow up in this country, is much darker skinned, maybe they don't do as well. And that's because of preconceptions that the whites that you have as customers have in their head from when they were growing up.
And you actually just proved your own point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what you just described that's something that's a preconceived notion in your mind, that if you're ABC, then you're going to be treated like this. Did you know whites aren't even the richest demographic in this country?
Asians, I'm not sure who.
Asians,
Yeah.
Indians from India,
Right.
and Nigerians are number 3.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, Asians
number
doesn't
3.
surprise me. I sell flooring for a living. I mean, that's how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
And a big percentage of my customers are Asian Indians, and they're all in IT,
Yeah.
and they make good dollars.
They're
and they
IT,
can
they're
afford good product.
doctors. Yep,
That's
they're
correct.
doctors. Like
Doctors
the
and
doctors,
IT.
lawyers. It's like when have you ever? And I'm not knocking the profession, but when have you ever seen an Asian or an Indian housekeeper or dishwasher?
No, I
Like,
haven't.
you don't, and you know why? Because they have high standards for themselves.
Yeah.
The problem with the people here, like born here, is we get fed the narrative. Like I said earlier, kids aren't born to hate. Kids aren't born to see color. It's taught to them. So people come here from other countries, right? Case in point, I had a man on episode 41, I believe. He was an Israeli immigrant, and he fought in the Israeli army, had to battle with, the hostile Muslim areas. And he came here with $1,000 in a dream.
Mhm.
Could barely speak the language. And have you heard of Restoration 911?
I'm sorry.
Restoration 911.
No, I haven't.
Being a flooring guy, that's surprising because they do cleaning and restoration. But he's
Well, there's 1,000 restoration companies.
well,
but-
yeah, all right,
Yeah.
fair enough. It's like he's one of the biggest ones though. He turned it.
Okay.
He came here for said with $1,000 in a dream, and he
Yeah.
has a multi-million-dollar franchise now.
Yeah.
No, so the problem is that mainly with blacks and whites is that we're so focused on race that we're not focused on just being successful. If people just focus on being successful, it can happen.
Well, the issue, if there's ever going to be a civil war, if you will, again in this country, it's going to be rich and poor.
Yeah.
It's not going to be color against color. There's,
agree with that.
There's so many people that have so much wealth and so many hundreds of thousands of people that have very little.
Yeah.
That at some point it's going to be the haves and the have-nots.
See, and like Olivia was saying earlier, having one of these,
Yep.
and people in the inner cities can get a free one. So that's not an excuse anymore. So the opportunities are out there. Just a lot of people just don't know. Like, they just don't know. If you go down to your local chamber of commerce, you know how many free programs are there. So it's like, if someone maybe can't get into college, you can get into a program there and you can learn basic things to make money. You can open an Amazon store. You can sell things you can buy things at yard sales and sell them on eBay. That's how Gary Vaynerchuk got started. Like, teaching the Black community how to build generational wealth. Like, I've been speaking about that with my kids. Olivia can attest to this, about her starting a branch under my business. And then my twin boys, they want to do a YouTube channel. I said, we can keep that umbrella under my business as well. Said, rather than hiring outside, we'll keep the money inside. Then when I'm ready to retire, Olivia can take over, and then it stays here. Said, then you guys have kids. Then if something they can do, keep it under the umbrella. Keep it here, and then that's how you build a generational wealth. That's what's lacking in those inner cities.
Yeah.
Olivia, you want to get in?
No, I think.
She's like, I'm just listening.
Yeah, I'm kind of just listening.
She's a great audience.
Pretty good listening, yeah.
Yeah, she is. All right, David. So, what was your biggest takeaway from today?
Well, I guess first of all, you surprised me with your being a person of color, talking about the media, promulgating the idea that the Democratic Party and the liberals are all for you, and I agree. Without the black vote, down in Georgia, what's that young woman's name that I'm drawing a blank on her right now, who was really she ran for office and lost, and she's the big impetus there in getting out the vote.
I know who you're talking about. Like, I can picture her face, but I don't remember her name.
Yeah. Well, anyway, maybe Olivia will grab it for us. But she has talked about how important it is to get out the black vote, and she is the one that has been pushing to get people to the polls. That's what surprised me. I think that your take is almost, what I'm listening to from you, I would say you're a Republican, and that you're a little right of center. And I'm like, wait a minute. Do you know that you're a person of color? Are you aware of that? Because I do have some contacts here in the Carolinas area who are people of color, and who have said things like Obama didn't do a darn thing for black people. He wasn't out there and didn't do enough what we thought he was going to do. So I guess that's the biggest takeaway that surprised me. But I will tell you, one of the things that helped me when I was doing my radio show was being open-minded. I mean, I like to learn, and I'm always interested in other people's opinions. So I will put some thought into and start looking at it a little bit differently, and considering your point of view, that it's the media that and I wasn't aware of the numbers as far as white policemen killing black guys.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's sensational. If it bleeds, it leads. I mean, I was in the newspaper business for quite a while too. And that if it bleeds, it leads is always going to be true. Those are the stories people pay attention to.
It's true.
But I really think that we would all agree, maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it is education. My parents never told me, we want you to go to college and be some great success. I just kind of looked around at my friends in the school I was at and said, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Although, my age, I was going to change the world. I came of age back in the late 60s, early 70s. So we were going to change the world. And of course, that didn't happen. And I went into sales, and I've been in sales most of my working life. I think that's the biggest take I've got from this, Robert, that it's interesting for me to hear an opinion from a person of color who was born in the projects but didn't grow up there, and I really would be interested to hear some young men your age of color who grew up in the South and what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
And it's too bad that we only had just the three of us here. I mean, it was a great conversation, but it would have been nice if we had some more people participating.
Agreed.
Because that's really what it is. You got to get more conversation going on.
Yeah, and to just hear the different perspective, just like you said, which is a division of racist thought in itself. You know,
Yeah.
like it surprised you that a person of color would have those views.
Yeah.
You know, because we all have our preconceived notions.
Yeah.
You know, and before I give my final take, Olivia, what was your biggest takeaway? Come on, sister, give us something. I can't hear you. Hello? No. Okay, well, we lost you, so yeah. So with mine, it was, my biggest take with this from the things that you've said is that's part of the problem is those preconceived notions. Like, because I'm a person of color, I'm supposed to think this way, I'm supposed to vote this way. And that's the problem within the community, is that if you think outside of what the societal norm or what the societal stereotype is, then there must be something wrong with you. So I am not a Republican per se, but I am anti-Democrat. So that I will say. I am anti-Democrat. Like, I will openly admit I voted for Trump because I absolutely did not like Biden. So it wasn't an endorsement. It wasn't an endorsement of Trump. It was more of I'm not voting for him. Like, I am not. And so that's just my thing. Like, in case in point, getting back to the media, like, Trump asked him in that second debate, do you plan on shutting down the Keystone Pipeline? Biden said no. One of his first few executive orders, he shuts it down and cost them 8,000 jobs. And the media said nothing about it. If Trump did that, they would have raked that man through the coals. It's like he couldn't breathe right. Now, did he make mistakes? Of course he did. Did he do some things that made me scratch my head a little? Of course he did. But I'm just saying, just how the media displays things. I don't trust the Democrats, not 1 ounce.
Yeah, but Trump is a despicable human being, Robert. I mean, you can like his politics, but he is a despicable human being.
Have you met Joe Biden?
No, I haven't met Joe Biden.
No, I'm just saying, like, through the media.
I haven't met Joe Biden, but I go on what Trump presented to the world, which is making fun of people, being misogynistic. I don't know whether he's a racist or not, because I can't comment on that. But I can say he's a misogynist. I can say that he is not just boys' club talk when he's talking about sexually assaulting women. I'm not saying other people don't do that Biden maybe hasn't done that. But I'm saying Trump literally put it right out there. This is who I am. And 70 million people said, I'm okay with that. And that blows my mind. I personally couldn't vote for a person that I think is that disgusting. That's just, now, I love Bill Clinton and I voted for him. And yeah, he's a scalawag, but Bill Clinton's the kind of guy that really could feel your pain and help you out and then want to sleep with your daughter. I mean, that's Bill Clinton. He's this dichotomy. He's like maybe duplicitous, but he's a different kind of dude.
Yeah.
But Trump is an uncouth, there's nothing about him that I respect. And so it almost didn't matter what his politics are. I'm like, how can you make fun of Mexicans? How can you make fun of women? How can you say, look at her? Do you think I would have tried to sleep with her? It's like, how can you vote for a person? How can women vote for a guy like that? I have no idea. And maybe, and it's not because I'm a big churchgoer. It's because I think I was raised with a sense of right and wrong in some ethics. And I'm like, yeah, no. There's some lines you just don't cross. And it's not being politically correct. It's being human and being kind.
Yeah, so, I think some things with that, it depends how it's displayed as well. Because like we were saying earlier with the police shooting, no, hold on, right? Like with the police shootings and stuff, you know, they show you snippets. Like they don't show you the entire context. Like the thing with him, he was behind closed doors and somebody taped him and did it. Like I've coached women almost my entire life, and there is some stuff that gets said on those buses. You know what I mean? So to just act like it doesn't go both ways is one thing. To me, I was like, that's bar talk. Now, I'm sure back in your heyday, you were at the bar with the boys and just doing your talk. You know, so but somebody else leaked that. To me, okay. I don't care about that. I care about what he's gonna do for us. Because
what about the reporter?
Let me finish my sentence. I let you finish, right? Let me finish. Right. And so I see you interrupted my flow, David. Oh yeah. So I worry about how our country is looking right now. Right now, I was watching an Australian news station, the way they were covering what's going on here. And we are no less of a laughingstock than we were under him. And just some of the policies and stuff that they're undoing doesn't make sense. You know, so it's like I look at what they're doing for our country. Like I said, did Trump make mistakes? Of course he did. But look at the border now. Look at the border now, because it's an absolute shit show. And again, and saying on stage in front of everyone, I'm not going to do this, and then doing it. I'm sorry, but that's despicable as well. Because there were 8,000 people who probably voted for you, and then you just put them on the unemployment line after you said in a live debate that you wouldn't do it. Like, that's my problem with the Democrats, is they show you red, but they give you black.
H.W. Bush said he wasn't going to raise taxes. He said, read my lips, but he raised taxes anyway.
What's that going to do it right now? I'm talking right now.
But the idea is that politicians all lie to get elected.
Yeah,
I don't know who they are. But when Trump stood there and made fun of the specially abled reporter with, I don't know. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That stuff. That was, you know what?
That was definitely
vote
stupid.
For a person that is totally... he's a despicable human being, Robert.
I'm just saying, though, but again, getting back to the Middle East, he negotiated 5 peace treaties.
Yeah, he made
5. Yeah. Never, ever been done. Biden was in office. I'm not saying it's Biden's fault, but he was in office 2 months and we got war. I mean, yeah. I know that they signed the treaty, but it's like, you know, like there were things that just weren't happening. That whole Hunter Biden scandal got censored on all major platforms. Censored.
Don't you think that got blown out of proportion, though?
We'll never know because we never got the story.
I know.
You know, because Biden knows that there was that email was saying, the big guy is going to get his check too. You know, so if someone was talking to my daughter and they referred to the big guy, she's going to think they're talking about me. So yeah. he knows he was involved in that, and that's why all those liberal platforms shut it down. You know, like that's the kind of stuff. If Trump was to act like a jackass on TV, whatever. But these guys are covering up scandals. Like you go back to speaking, Obama was probably one of the best speaking presidents ever.
Yeah.
Go behind the scenes because he did a lot of shady deals. A lot of shady deals. But everyone just gets hung up on the fact that he was such a great speaker and he could really empower the crowd. But then when the cameras were off, he was signing deals with the devil overseas to line their pockets for him and his $12 million mansion on Martha's Vineyard as he's telling white people how afraid of black people they are. You know what I mean? Like it's like they constantly talk out of both sides of their mouth. And
that's what politicians do.
Yeah. See, but the thing with Trump that made me overlook his foolish things was that at least you know what you're going to get. Like we don't even know. No, just listen, right? Biden clearly has cognitive issues, right? And the people clearly spoke about Harris because she ran for the presidency and got less than, I think it was like 0.2% of the vote. Right. So the people already spoke about her. So if Biden doesn't last all 4 years, she's going to be our president.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's valid.
Okay. You should be on ONA media.
I I'm actually going to be on a national show on Newsmax TV.
Yeah.
We're going to be debating, and they asked us who we voted for in 2020. So I was like, great. Now I got to go on national
so
TV.
you're the one black guy that voted for Trump. I knew there was one of you out there somewhere.
He had a 30% increase in the black vote this year. Well, last year. So, but anyways, we got to bring it down. Yeah, we got to bring it
anyway. Okay, so it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah,
actually.
you remind me of some of my white friends.
Here we go.
You knew that are like, okay, so let me ask you about, are you a conspiracy theory guy, Robert?
Not too much, but I do believe that COVID was made. That I will say.
Okay, so do you believe COVID was real though, and it was killing people?
Well, yeah, like I knew people who died from it.
Well, see, but I got friends that think that's just BS.
Oh,
that people just died anyway. And this same friend of mine, he also thinks we were involved in 9/11. That's why I'm asking you if you're a conspiracy theory guy.
No, 9/11 happened. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I can't see those people are like kamikazes.
Yeah.
Like you have to be a certain level of brainwashed to fly a plane into a building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's like, again, you can't put them all into the same box, but the terrorist Muslim groups, they train for that stuff. They go into a marketplace and blow themselves up. Like I can't see people in the US committing to that.
Okay.
I just can't.
All right, no. I like you again, then, Robert. It's okay.
Yeah, no. It's like I'm not psychotic. Like, but just the thing with me is I'm a critical thinker. Like, I didn't believe that someone ate a bat, got sick, went to some wet market that's conveniently in the same area as the Wuhan lab.
Yeah,
and we all know biological weapons are a real thing.
Yeah.
Like we have labs in this country where they experiment with viruses and strains. So they were experimenting with it. A couple of them probably got sick. They didn't realize how quickly it could spread. Yeah. Because a video came out last year. I feel like it was last April from a Chinese scientist. She actually fled, came here, and then I watched the video of her saying that there was a mishap in the lab, and that video vanished.
Yeah, some workers got sick, I guess, and were home recuperating for several days. So yeah, it probably did come out of the lab.
Yeah, so like I know it was real. Like my ex had it. She and her husband, they had it. She was describing how bad it was.
But see, then Trump takes that. Let's go back to your boy Trump. So
he's not my boy. I made that clear.
So Trump takes that, Robert. I'm just busting with you.
I know.
So Trump takes that and then calls it the Kung flu. And then we've got crazies out here in America that are terrorizing Asian Americans. It's like what he did was allow every crazy person to crawl out from under a rock and show how nuts they were. That scared me about him. So.
Or is he being the scapegoat? Because when 9/11 happened, American Muslims went through the same stuff.
I know.
So it just takes events. I mean, if you look at the Spanish flu, if you look at the hell was the other one? There was the Spanish flu, the West Nile virus.
Yeah.
As though like it's always been. I mean, yeah, Kung flu is a little over the top, but like, but people were getting mad that he was calling it the China virus. So like, well, what about the Spanish flu and the West Nile? Like, you're just identifying where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kung flu was a bit much.
All right, last thing, because I know we're over. What's your take on this? So when they were doing Operation Warp Speed for the vaccine, and they were like, this is Biden, this is Harris, this is Pelosi, this is all of them on the left was saying Trump's being reckless. It takes, years to create a vaccine and it's not going to be safe. Biden wins and says, vaccinate everyone as quickly as possible. How could that tune change in the span of 2? Because this was in October when he was saying all that. He wins in November. And they wanted people vaccinated starting in December.
All right. So first of all, I never heard anybody say Trump is being reckless.
Oh, God.
Maybe I'm listening to the wrong media. I never heard. I have no recollection at all of any of those folks saying Trump was being reckless trying to push through the vaccine. I really don't. I do recall
the first debate. He said it in the first debate. Biden did.
but I don't remember that. For
Okay.
whatever reason, it didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
I do know that the medical experts, if you will, Dr. Gupta, Sanjay, they're saying it takes years. And then when they did it, I thought, well, good for him. I mean, and what I've heard on CNN is credit goes to President Trump for warp speed, getting those vaccines created. But he was really slow on getting the vaccines in people's arms. So I don't know how you go from, okay, so Trump gets COVID. He goes to the hospital. He does a little drive in his car and waves to people. He says he's even stronger now than he was. What kind of BS is that, Robert?
Yeah.
But seriously, I never heard anybody saying he was being reckless doing it. All I heard was this is unusual and maybe they can do it. And when they did it, I've heard news media, CNN, MSNBC, giving him credit for it and saying, hey, this is something that he did good and he deserves a pat on the back for it.
I'm gonna have to fact check you on that one.
Yeah, no, fact check me, because really, I have heard that on CNN. They've given him credit for warp speed, but not
for years. I haven't heard CNN give him credit for a damn thing.
Yeah, this year, 2021, 2021.
Because like,
give him credit. That's the only thing he did good. But okay. Well, wait, he married Melania. Okay, so I'll give him for that one.
Give him that. Olivia, can we hear you yet? Nope.
We can't hear you, Olivia.
I'll just say, and she and I, we were watching the news. I don't remember what happened, but we were watching the news, and we were bouncing through the different news medias. And I said, "Look, this is the same story, and it's being looked at from 4 different angles, and it's the same story." Yeah. I said, that's the problem, and then that's why people get up in arms, because like they see, like, especially if you get all of your news from one channel, because I watch them all. I watch right wing, left wing, independent. Like I watch them all, because the liberals have some good ideas. The right wing has some good ideas. Yeah. Both sides are full of shit, but both sides have things that you can take from them. You know what I mean? So that's why I watch them all, But each side, they push their side. So with Obama, when people always talk about systemic racism, I always say, we had a black president for 8 years. Why didn't it change? I say, because it's about the party. It's not about the people, right? So you can't keep pushing race when we had a black president. And now we have a black vice president. Well, partially black vice president, who's a female, so the gender pay gap should be going down, because we have someone in power who can do something about it. Yeah. But it's not about that. It's about sticking to the party ideals.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think it's interesting. We'll see what happens with it.
Okay. Yeah, this was a good talk.
But check that out, really. CNN has given him credit for warp speed. Yeah,
because I've only seen them credit Biden. Yeah. But I will check, because it's not. I don't watch the news all the time, so
yeah. I told my friends, if you really want to know the news, then watch what I watched growing up: ABC, NBC, and CBS.
Yes, true.
They don't have a big political bent one way or the other. They try to report the news. Yeah. And on my Roku here, I watch. There's a little program called Newsy, and they just report the news. They don't try to slant it anyway. Yeah. So I try to watch those programs and just get the facts. Here's what happened. And then I can form my own opinion.
Awesome. Well, David, thank you for joining. So don't sign out yet, because I have a couple questions for you off air.
Okay. Bye, Olivia.
I can't hear her anyway. All right. So that was a great talk. See, and that's the purpose of this show. See, we didn't agree on everything. It didn't get ugly. We didn't start downplaying each other's intelligence or calling names. Like, it's not about that. So it's about just trying to understand where the other side is coming from. And so if you're tuning in late, I encourage you to go back, listen to the whole show. If you have opinions, put it down in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel. So next week, we talk about the media's role in gaslighting police brutality. So that's going to be another hot topic, and we will see you then. Have a great day.